After the age of 25, men need to go to the doctor every year. You need to have a checkup. It doesn't matter.
But if you over 50 take your in there today. I'm sorry.
And find a doctor with small.
They're gonna bleep that out.
And find a doctor with small hands. I'm just telling you that too.
Good day and welcome back to the 811 Crew podcast. It is Jason Turner and
Ulysses Glenn, also known as Slugger.
Sluggerific in the house. Sluggerific in the house. And we are here and we're really glad to be back with y'all. We really started a really good, serious, and timely conversation last time, Slugger, about men's mental health. And in fact, with this being June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, right?
Yep, sure is. Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have, it's a new thing. A lot of men, especially men of color, don't really talk about it at all. Actually, this was the first time I ever heard of it. That this was actually Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and you realize your friends don't talk about it. You really don't know, if your friends have seen a therapist, you really don't know that there's something wrong, especially with men. Men compartmentalize things. They also, in the black community, before you go to a therapist, they'll tell you should go to church, which is nothing wrong with going to church, but sometimes the answer is, sometimes just going to church is not the answer you want that you
really could looking for. You need something more, or a lot of times it's not. You don't want to. People just put that out there. Go talk to Jesus or go pray, and you need more than that.
I need more than prayer. I know you can have meetings with your priest, pastor, things like that, and those are good as well. But those are not trained therapists. They're more or less going to talk to you about everything from a religious point of view, which there is nothing wrong. And there are psalms that relate to certain things. But when you are going through, and I can tell you for myself, I do appreciate them, but sometimes you want to hear a real answer from someone like, you are doing better, you're not doing better, you should try this. There's different, these people are more trained in talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a stigmatism. I definitely think, especially as being a black male, there's a stigmatism that shows you.
Now, I told you about this last time with this astigmatism. Like, I have an astigmatism. It's a stigma. But I mean, my astigmatism is in my eye. You saying you mean a stigma?
There's a stigma.
And we talked about this. We taled about you saying salmon.
No, we talked about me saying salmon. That wasn't me. That was
all right. I mean,
first of all, I say salmon.
Astigmatism is a stigma.
There is a stigma.
Thank
you. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Thank you for the.
You said it 3 times. I wanted you to say it anymore.
It's the UVA education that comes out in you. I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Thomas Jefferson had John sitting there. He told you.
It's all good. I mean, I was an English major. I'm a UVA English major too. So,
Thomas Jefferson.
But can I interject? When you were talking about the shows, I don't remember the first male that I remember talking about feelings and things like this was probably Dr. Phil. I feel like that before that, I don't remember anyone else who was specifically a man who was specifically talking about how you should feel, how you should handle these trauma. At least, from my experience. I mean, we already know that. It's clear been to everybody that I don't see every TV show and song or whatever that's out there. But no, Dr. Phil, wait a minute now, Dr. Phil. I mean, Oprah put Dr. Phil on, okay? I don't question Dr. Phil.
She put on Dr. Oz,
but I'm saying, right, but okay, well, she did, but yeah, so she 1 for 2.
Right.
But anyway, I just feel like that I didn't see as much of it being directed towards men. And even when Dr. Phil came on, I almost more felt like he was more of the man talking to the woman more so than really engaging men. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but
the stigma of men I think there's a huge stigma of men going and feeling vulnerable. So
Where does that stigma? I mean, besides the church, are there are there any other areas where you feel like
Men-
that comes from?
it's like men crying. Like it's the same thing as a man cry. It's like when you were raised not to cry. You
were raised not to cry. This was this
No,
a
no.
Ohio thing?
yeah.
Like you couldn't cry.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no, even now my parents was
Suck it up.
yeah. No, I can tell you, I can remember my parents even saying, one day you're gonna need those tears. You stop crying.
Oh wow! One day that's cold blood.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
day
they
you're
were-
gonna need
yeah.
those tears, but
So
it ain't
cry-
today.
It's not today.
It's not tonight.
Crying
I'm
in
gonna
my
make
house.
you feel like you need them, but you
crying
ain't
in
gonna
my
need them.
house was not a.
It was not safe
Yeah,
to cry.
it was not safe to cry.
You better go up there and close your door.
You better suck
your
those,
head in your pillow.
right, and suck those tears up. So I think the stigma that in most households, most boys are always told not to cry. I mean, you really, even using, even hearing your father say "I love you," which my father did.
Yeah, that definitely.
But that's a huge thing, and so that's something that's been coming along. That's more normal.
Yeah, I never
It's
felt
been more
like the
normal.
cry. I never felt if either my parents like you couldn't cry, like suck that up, like don't be your man, don't be whatever. So that wasn't as much, but I feel you in for that the culture doesn't seem to allow as much latitude for men to express themselves.
I think men that were crying were seen as being very weak. I mean, if you think about when you were in high school, junior high, that kid that was crying, unless you were an athlete and you lost a game,
Right.
that was the only time you
Right,
were
you
allowed
cried
to
out of
cry.
despair, the
Right,
agony
but-
of defeat.
Right, which I never quite understood. I'm like, this is a high school game. I'm going home. So, but they would be in tears.
Like, isn't there a game next week?
There's a game next week.
Aren't we still leading the conference?
We're not just going to. I guess we're not going to Dairy Queen. Okay. So, but but
no
it was
after party.
But the stigma is
The stigma is real.
it's real. And
It's real.
I think as men we are taught to compartmentalize things, and when you talk to older men, they'll tell you things that have happened in their life, and you're like, you're still standing here, and they're just like, oh yeah, my whole family was burnt down. I was the only one that lived, and they just kept moving along. I'm like, dude, I would be.
I'd be done, right?
Done.
That, like, how did you get through?
yeah.
And then on top of the systemic things that the folks had to deal with back in the day. But let me ask you about this too. Your thoughts on this, Ulysses? What we know is that there is medicine. There are things that can help, right?
Yes.
There are pharmaceuticals for depression. You have
Yes.
things that can help. Do you feel that? What do you think folks think about medicine? Taking medicine, like for instance, in my experience, I wonder, especially in the Black community, with all the things around the vaccine hesitancy. You saw so many Black folk that had family folks that were dying of COVID, but yet didn't want to take the vaccine. Do you feel like so now in this mental health piece? We're saying that many times culturally Black folks might not even feel comfortable talking. If they're not talking, are they even aware of medicine? Do you feel like that hesitancy extends to medicine for mental health?
I think it's a huge hesitancy because not only just for mental health, when you look at medication in the typical quote unquote Black diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, they don't take medication for that. So let alone something that's going to what do
you mean they don't take medication for that? I mean, I have family members that take medication for heart disease, high blood pressure and diabetes.
What I mean
definitely for high blood pressure.
What I mean is they'll be diagnosed with it, but when you ask them, especially men, they will feel, oh, I'm fine. I don't have to take it. I actually have a very good friend who I'm not going to mention. He's seeing this, but he decided, hey, I'm not going to take my medication.
He said, I'm gonna do yoga.
No. He didn't do any of that. No.
Meditate.
No. He's one of my really good friends. I'm gonna call. We went to college together.
Did it work? I mean,
Oh no, it went very
he
bad.
thought himself down to.
Oh, it went very bad for
Okay,
him. He's still living, but it went very bad for him. And you realize the thing with men, first of all, won't go to the doctor First of all, diabetes, high blood pressure. You see, there's a million signs. Men will not go to the doctor until they no longer can perform sexually.
Yeah, and I
That's
think we're going
usually
to
what
talk
happens.
about that too. About
That's
going
usually
to the
when they
doctor.
go.
That's when you start to tune in something. What you got to
I
say?
think the medication thing isn't just a black male thing. I think it's all black people because
Okay.
I know myself. I take depression meds.
Okay.
But it took me going through like a really rough time and my doctor saying, you need this, you need this. And finally, when I took it, I swear it was like a light bulb went off, the veil came off, the curtain opened. And all of a sudden, I thought, wow, I feel back to myself again.
Right.
So I feel like, the stigma, I
The
almost said stigmatism.
Right, stigmatism. Right. We do not want the UVA Thomas Jefferson to come out on us.
But it's because you don't want people to know you're taking it because they'll look at
Right.
you and think you're crazy.
Right.
You must be
Right.
crazy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think people, if we can make it so that, depression, mental health, counseling is just like, like you said, it's a disease where you take medication to get better.
Well, the one thing is, I recall as kids, they would always give it to boys. They would give them
ADD.
No. This is before ADD was when we
Ritalin
were,
or something?
Ritalin.
I don't
and
even
the
know
kid-
what that was. I just heard that. I don't
those
know what it did.
Ritalin. And so where I grew up, you knew kids took Ritalin. So they were doing that, and they always put boys on those type of, especially young black males on that. They think there's something wrong. They're putting you on Ritalin. They're putting you on Adderall. And now it's become more, but now actually some of those prescribed drugs have become your suburban mom's weight loss drugs as well. So they are using them as they're going to their therapist. Oh, I can't deal with my children, or I can't deal with this, and they're now taking these drugs. And they help you lose weight. And if you ever notice, you'll see the soccer mom that can do everything. She's the soccer mom. She's the
But now wait a minute.
class,
Let's
everything.
not assume. We're not saying that an effective woman who multitask and get things done is also on on meds.
I'm not
they
saying
could
they
just be
are.
high on life and just
When you have
they had a great Bikram yoga session that morning, and now
the fact if you have 2 or 3 kids and you were able to do Bikram yoga that morning, that should say
with astigmatism.
and I do hot yoga because it's not, you can't call it Bikram yoga anymore.
Well, you know what? I want to say something about this too. You are right. It can be a very hostile environment, you know, especially for men to share. And I was really in discussing this segment. I really didn't know whether I wanted to share a story related to this. I was with a group of guys, and it started off really well with a group of men having a discussion about black men's health, and a group of different black doctors and physicians were giving a bunch of advice about how we can, live our best lives and prevent against diabetes and heart disease and all these things. And one of the presenters is a psychiatrist and started talking about depression, suicide, etc.
Right.
And at a point when he started talking about depression, somebody made a comment like, "Don't nobody jump out no window," and don't anybody jump out any windows. And then there was a bunch of laughter, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And somebody else said, "Oh yeah, and I don't know about we want to talk about this because I know you might be sensitive." Laughter again. And it was that laughter, honestly, and that kind of like false bravado that really made me admit and share, as you did, Sydney, that I suffered, from depression, and I took medicine for depression, like Sydney just shared. And when I remember that, when I shared that in front of that room of about 30 different brothers, there was absolute silence. And folks were actually looking at me and came up to me after, like, "Jay, I never, depression, I never would have thought that." And so,
Are you talking about me?
No, I was not going to mention you, Slugger, but yes, but to
Because
your
I
point,
did.
there were a lot of folks, and so that really drove home for me that you cannot worry or think about what people look like. It's not about how cool you look and how gregarious and how much you smile. depression doesn't care about how successful and happy you are. It can come for you.
And it doesn't look just like you. People look at me and they're like, "You're depressed?" No, well, not anymore. But I have to. It took me getting medication. It took me also realizing like the bike club helped me. And whenever I know my trigger points now, and so when I start to feel something, I go out to the tennis court, go ride my bike, go out to my friends and paddleboard. And so you have to get in tune with yourself to know when you're going through those ups and downs. And so people now look at me and they're like, "You seem like you're always happy." It took me
a process.
Yeah,
it's
took
a process,
me a long time
right?
to get here. Yeah.
I will say when I believe so. Jason is talking about me, and he wasn't very nice.
And you weren't. But to be clear, you were not in any way the only one who felt that way.
But I guess knowing you, and as long as I knew you, and you're correct. I never would have thought. To me, you seemed more like a Teflon Don. That these things don't bother. That you wouldn't. That this is not something you would have to go through.
Yep.
So, and I remember
painted smiles.
And I remember apologizing because I was like, well, because I always felt you were. I said, Jason. I remember saying I thought you were stronger than this, and it's not. And I do believe in medication, but I believe like if there's diabetes, if there's high blood pressure, anything like that.
But you're right. We did have an evolution of conversation about that because, at one point when you said to me, I didn't think about you like that. You were still under the notion, as you said earlier, of thinking, Jay, well, you're not actually, you could be softer than I thought. I mean, like, why are you depressed? Like, won't you get some sleep and feel better about yourself?
I guess I've known you, so I'm like, that's not him. But as I've matured and some things have happened in my life, and I had to take some depression medication myself, and I remember not taking it for like, you know what, I'm bigger than this. I don't have to take this. The only medication I will take is Excedrin, so that I'll take Excedrin and NyQuil. And I take Excedrin so I don't wake up with a hangover, and I take NyQuil when I'm sick. That's it. So for me to take medication was a huge for me. So when I remember coming off of it, and I remember talking to my Lyme brother, and I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I'm really feeling bad now because of this. And he was like, take the medication. He said, they gave it to you for a reason. And you can't, just like any other medications, you cannot wean. Believe it or not, I know I do know mostly everything, but one thing I know, you cannot wean yourself off of medication. You have to have the doctor
absolutely
do it. You can't. So
but I like what you said about how believing that medication can help. A lot, and it's when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the downsides with people who suffer in silence. The worst side of things we've seen is folks talking about suicide. We've seen some things, some major suicides.
I've actually
and things.
Had a recent friend whose son who just committed suicide, and it's horrible.
It's terrible.
I mean, it's a horrible. It's never affected me personally that close, but I've known her since I was a child, and of course I knew her son and everything. So I'm going through it with her and her family, and as a parent, you never know. You're always like, well, what could I have done? Is there something I didn't see? And it's just the way it is. And he was a young man, and I know the new generation, it's much harder for them to deal with certain issues. And he came from mother, father, middle-class family. There was, it's not like he was homeless.
Right, and you see
like
that. It didn't fit anything. And I'm going to tell you, when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about the need to seek therapy, whether that's group therapy, individual therapy. Who can you talk to, and how can you develop the strength to go share your burdens? You're not alone out there. We're going to talk about that on 811 Crew when we return.
We'll be back.
811 Crew, we're back, and great but serious conversation today. We're going to put some resources up. Carmen is going to put some resources up on our social media. If you're feeling a certain way, if you want to be discreet, if you want to talk to somebody, we're going to put some resources up that will allow you to go online or reach out and have some folks that you can talk to. But we can go to our page, our site, which is at your DCTV. And as we said, we're Generation Xers. That means it's your YOUR DCTV.
Right.
Not that you are.
He went to UVA. He can spell.
Right, there we go.
Thomas Jefferson.
So of the over 50 that we spell it the right way. Okay, that's it.
Always remember Thomas Jefferson.
So please check out our social media. Check at your DCTV for resources that can help with this. And as a part of that, the last thing, we had a poll question that was also kind of feeds into this discussion about therapy, et cetera. Ulysses, what was that? What do we need folks' help on next time?
The poll question is, do you routinely go to the doctor?
Right.
This is more or less for men. And the thing is about going to the doctor, just for your physical well-being, they do talk to you about your mental health. They ask you things, what's going on in your, where there could be divorce, where you could have lost your job, just different things to figure out where you are. And they will give you references as well. Mm-hmm. And it's usually someone that they know they have a relationship with. And, they know if you have insurance, don't have insurance. So always, if you don't know where to start, when you
start with your doctor.
When you go to when you go get your annual physical, which you should be doing if you're
first of all, you need to listen to your wife, mom, significant other, or somebody who tells you, have you been to get that prostate exam?
You need to go to the doctor.
You need to go to the doctor.
I don't care if you're after the age of 25, men need to go to the doctor every year. You need to have a checkup. It doesn't matter.
But if you over 50 take your ass in there today. I'm sorry.
And find a doctor with small hands.
They're going to bleep that out.
And find a doctor with small hands. I'm just telling you that too. We're back.
We are back, and we are continuing a very serious conversation that we're having here about in discussion of June, again, this being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And these are very serious topics that we're talking about in terms of men being able to engage, about people, ourselves being able to talk and share, and about how you can talk to others and avail yourself to help if you need it. Carmen, we want to go to Carmen because we kind of set this up as a poll question last week, right? What was that poll question last week, Elizabeth?
The poll question is, have you ever seen a therapist? Why and why not?
I have.
And I have too. And so Carmen, who has her
see
ear,
if the young people have,
right?
Anyway.
And Carmen has her ear to the street.
Actually, I'm sorry, Carmen. This is not about your stuff. We're about the people. We're talking about the people.
We're talking about the people.
We'll get to your file after this. But go ahead.
Exactly. Well, thank you for having me back. I'm so happy to be here with my favorite uncles.
We're glad you're back. We're glad you're back from the cruise. Everything.
Yeah.
You're right.
Did you bring us anything? I mean, did you
bring
bring your
keychain?
uncle? Did you bring your uncle something?
No
I
keychain?
bought small little crumbs of rum cake.
Where is it? I'll take some rum cake. You should have brought.
That's messed up.
I haven't eaten it yet.
What about the
okay.
T-shirt? What about the T-shirt?
Which I have Mexico's.
Actually,
yeah.
I collect shot glasses, so that would be nice.
Okay.
Didn't you go to some other islands too?
I did.
And you didn't think of anything about all them islands. You didn't think about nothing to bring back to the A11 crew, to your uncles.
Right. So what had happened was
you brought back a half-eaten tortilla.
It was unlimited drinks, and I didn't.
Oh.
See, that's what.
What cruise was that line? Was that again?
It was that one.
That one. Okay.
Cruise ships can be therapeutic too, from
Very
what I
much
understand.
so.
They can be. I've been on a lot of them, but we gotta get
We
back
digress.
to
We digress.
We
What the
digress.
people
We
had
digress.
said.
What
Yes.
the people
Okay.
said.
What the people
So-
said.
Did people need therapy?
Yes. So, we asked a question. We polled the audience on Instagram. If you haven't done it, be out looking for it.
Okay.
Got some interesting answers. I'm a tad bit concerned. The number one that we have, first one, barbershop is my therapy. That's their therapist. That's where they go.
That's actually pretty.
That's accurate.
That's
I mean,
actually very accurate.
that's always been.
There's actually a
key
book
place.
by Michael Baisden talking about barbershop talk for black men.
Yep.
And that's where, and which is where black men are all equal. You can be a CEO,
That's
or
right.
you can be the janitor, but
That's
you're
right.
still paying the same amount for your haircut. You're at the same place. Everyone's equal.
Yep, I know
Which
another
makes
friend of mine
sense.
who does a
Yep.
podcast out of the barbershop as well
Barbershop.
too. Very
Oh, that's
critical.
some deep stuff.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
knew.
Just like when you.
I'm not sure how much people are actually sharing. Well, now that being said, I ain't ever seen nobody in the chair like, man, I need therapy, yo.
I talked to my. I talked to my.
never-
I talked to my
no,
barber a lot.
I mean, but no, I'm talking about you might be talking to your barber about sports and your whatever, but there's all the other barbers and the other people in the chair. Are you like just looking up at them while you're talking
No,
like, man, you know I'm messed up over this,
No, we
or
talk-
do you tell everybody in the shop that, man,
No,
I'm
we're
hurting, I'm
talking-
hurting up in here today?
We talk, me and my barber. Even I've had since I lived in D.C. I've had like 4 good barbers, and I still talk just depending where I've lived, and we've talked about very serious on their side, my side. So I can understand it. I wouldn't probably use that. Well, it depends. At a certain age, I probably did listen to them a lot more. But as I've gotten older,
You need some deeper things.
I needed
That's interesting.
I needed someone
Would
with
have
some
never guessed.
with some initials behind their name.
Was there more? Was there more than
Yeah.
that too? Talk to us
Yeah.
more.
So
What else you got?
we also have my friends are my therapist.
That's interesting.
I bet you
Ooh.
somebody who has social media is their therapist. I don't know.
I mean,
I put it on Facebook and see what the people
um,
think.
My friend, Jason, I talk to friends. Friends are good because they know you pretty well.
The problem is when you're younger. I would say this: the problem with you're younger is you might not be able to trust what they're thinking. The thing about being 50 plus, I feel like, is we've had friends like you and I have been friends for
Yeah.
over 30 something years. You kind of know whose
And plus,
advice you might be able to take by that.
Another thing with men kind of do the who, what, where, why. So they're not giving you in depth. That kind of goes back to when you have the female friends. I think I do more in depth with female friends.
Yep.
Yeah, and
That sounds fine.
I would say that I'm still different than that. Like I will go in depth. Period. I don't have like I'm very in touch with my feminine side.
That's what's up. I'm happy to hear that. Someone else said that they used to go to therapy, but they're currently not.
Okay.
Okay. And then we had someone else say, yes, they see one weekly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Very smart. Very good. Very good. Did they mention group versus individual therapy or anything like that?
no.
Because it depends on things. I mean, like I definitely like the group therapy, and I'm gonna tell you something about it being a therapy is in group therapy too. One thing that I felt that was very therapeutic about group is whatever problem you go to group therapy with, there's gonna be somebody in that group whose problem is way worse than yours. So I came away many times like,
whoa.
I don't know if I feel better about myself, but I'm glad I don't have Renee's problem.
Yeah, like so, yeah.
I was
Group therapy.
Well, group therapy is very reaffirming. Okay, I was like, you know what? I'm not as bad off as I thought.
Group therapy is like, well, maybe I think I got this.
Right. I don't want her problems.
I don't want like, and I've done group therapy, and I have a personal therapist as well. So I think, and they work differently. Actually, I have a group therapy that we meet together. We meet as a group. Then I have a teledoc, and then I actually have a one-on-one therapist. And so my one-on-one therapist is a male therapist, which is actually I like having a male therapist. I'm a lot more comfortable with sharing any type of advice. Like even when I was prescribed medication, one of the things I was like, "Hey, will I still be able to perform?" Like I don't want, So like that's the first thing you're gonna ask. Like, "Hey, wait a minute."
Big
dude.
facts.
I mean, hey, that's part of life.
You know, if it was going to affect your singing voice.
Exactly.
I mean, can you stand up?
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to make sure. That's
Right,
my
right,
time.
right,
right.
I said
Wait.
too much.
I like that word. Can you stand up?
I've been
And
here too
so-
long. Time to go.
Well, now look, I will tell you that as we wrap this up, what has been a real it's funny, but this is very serious
Yes.
conversation as well, and I'm glad that we can be serious about it, but also lighten the conversation as well to make it a safe place. again, we want to we invite you, and we want to make sure that folks continue to talk, to share, find folks to talk to. It's not a stigma or a stigmatism to come out and share how you feel about things. Take your medicine if you have it, but most importantly, talk to someone and know that tomorrow can be better.
Yes. And,
tomorrow can be better.
There was we were talking about suicide. You never know. You never know someone is at that point unless they tell you, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z."
Mm-hmm.
And so, because you always think the person, I've spoken to them, they're okay.
Right.
This is, it's just a very suicide. I think is a very personal thing, and I think the people who have done it or who have tried it. The very first person I know who actually succeeded, I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
And this girl did it, and it's affected my class because her friends, and I graduated high school, let's not talk about when, but where there was no such thing as podcasts, put it that way. And friends of hers still will, on her birthday or the anniversary, put on Facebook about it. Mm-hmm. So it's. I think anyone who needs help should call help. Any of my friends that are seeing this, please feel free to call me at night. You can come by my house.
Well, we could definitely call. We'll definitely call you because clearly, unbeknownst to all of us, you also have a PhD in clinical psychology, sociological therapy, men's everything.
Well, no, if I'm going to read about something, I'm going to read everything.
So we maybe with Carmen, we want to thank Carmen for the survey question here. Yeah. Maybe we'll put his home phone number on social media in case anybody needs your PhD or your MSD and everybody's skills.
You
can probably write a prescription for somebody too if you need it. We'll find out about your MD on the next episode.
I actually, I'm not a doctor, but I can take a look.
Very good.
I can take a look.
Y'all, before Ulysses gets another degree, we're going to check out of this discussion, but keep talking, keep it serious, and listen to your folks. 811 crew, we're out.
Let's go, pick your feet up though. Let's go, pick your feet up though.